Hello, viewer. Welcome to R with Oliver, episode 2. My name is Oliver, and let's talk about R. In this episode, I wanted to go over a bit more about vectors. I wanted to go over these 4 functions, and I wanted to start talking about data types. And these are the data types we're going to go over. So before we get started, I've done a few things since the last episode. I've gone ahead and cleared my console over here on the right. You can do that by clicking this broom icon in the top right or holding Control and pressing L. That is the shortcut on Windows. It's similar on a Mac. So if you have some stuff in your console and you want to clear it out, just hold Control and press L and it clears it out for you. I've also gone ahead and down here in the bottom left, I've cleared out my environment, and you can do that by just clicking this broom icon. It asks you if you're sure, and if you want to include hidden objects, sure, why not? And there you go. Your environment's clear. So all those variables are gone and you cannot reference them. And I've also gone ahead and increased the font size of the text and zoomed in a bit overall. And you can do that by going up here to Tools, down here to Global Options, down here to Appearance, and I've zoomed to 130% and I've changed the editor font size to 16. Cool. So let's go ahead and make a vector of integers, and we'll call it integer vector, and let's give it the values 1 to 23. Let's go ahead and send this command to our console. Remember, with the command Control Enter, you see it's over here in the console. Let's go ahead and look at our vector that we created. You can see it has the values 1 to 23, and you'll notice I use this colon operator over here. So essentially what this does is it takes the first number and then the number on the left and then the number on the right, and then it creates a vector with every number in between, which looks just like this. And you'll notice that we don't need to use the C function. So this is just a shorthand. So for example, it allows us to really quickly do something like 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. See, super easy. Let's say we wanted 1 to 8, right? Very easy. The same way you would do this is with the C function, and you'd have to type out every single number. So you can imagine it would be a bit tedious, but these two commands are identical. They both give a vector of integers 1 to 8. Pretty cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our first function, length. And remember, if you ever are curious about a function or you want to read more about it, or you just have heard it for the first time, do a question mark and type in length and go ahead and look at the help documentation. See the name of the function, and you can see it's in the base package. It says get or set the length of vectors and some more information than we need. So essentially, let's just use it and see what it does. But essentially, it tells you the number of elements in the vector. So let's go ahead and use it. Length of integer vector, and boom, 23. So this is saying there are 23 elements in this vector. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and get into the second function, type of. And the type of, shockingly enough, tells you the type of the object, the type of data it is. So type of integer vector, boom, integer. Cool. Super awesome. Let's go ahead and make our next vector. Let's go ahead and make a logical vector. We'll call it logical vector, and let's give it 5 elements. So let's go ahead and use the C function, and we'll go true, true, false, false, true. Okay? Let's go ahead and execute that. And you'll notice that we represent true and false in R with the capital true and the capital false. And I just want to note that you can represent true and false with capital T and capital F, but this is generally advised against, as people use single letter capitals often for data frames and other objects. And just to avoid confusion, we generally type out the full name, and it's not that hard, so it's what we do. So we have true and false. We've gone ahead and executed it in our console. Let's go ahead and look at it. It has 5 elements, but we can go ahead and confirm how many elements with the length function. Pretty cool. And one more note I want to make about true and false. We have a cool thing in R with equals equals, where it says, is one thing equal to another? So let's jump over to the console, and you do 1 equals equals 1. It gives you a logical in return, which is true. And so you can check if what I said before is true. Is true equal to t? Are those equal to each other? And the answer is true. You can kind of play around. Is true equal to true? True. Is true equal to false? That's false. But is false equal to false? And that is true. So remember that the single equal sign is an assignment operator in R, and the double equal sign is basically saying, is this single element equal to that single element? So it's comparing two elements and saying, hey, are these two things equal to each other? Pretty cool. Let's go ahead. So we already know the length is 5, but let's go ahead and check out that type of this logical vector. And unsurprisingly, it's logical. Pretty cool. So let's go ahead and check out our third data type, which is double. Let's go ahead and make a third vector called double vector. Let's give it 3 values, and a double is also sometimes known as a numeric in R. You may know it as a floating point if you have a programming background, or it's essentially a number that's a decimal. So for example, 1.2, or 4.55, or 6 point whatever, right? Any number with a decimal. Let's go ahead and execute this. Go to the console, we can look at it. And as we know, it has 3 elements. As you can see also, the first and second element have been have tacked on zeros to kind of match the number of decimal places with the third element. That's pretty cool. And we can go ahead real quick and just verify that the number of elements is 3, which we know because we just created it. And we can go ahead and check out the type of this vector. Cool, it's a double. So that's the type. Let's go ahead and check out the class. Let's go into the class function. So what is the class of the double vector? Well, it's a numeric. Remember I said sometimes it's known as numeric. So what's going on here is type of deals with R data types. These are R data types. And whereas the class function, it's a more object-oriented programming way of doing it. It's very customizable, and you can go crazy with it. If you have a programming background, you can Google S3 classes and read all about it. But essentially, between the type of function and the class function, you can learn all about what type of data you're working with your R object. Yeah, that is type of and class. So let's check out the class of our integer vector and our logical vector, and it does not tell us anything more than type of did. So you'll see for the logical vector as well, it gives the same result as type of. So this will be the same case with character, which we can go over right now. So let's make a character vector. And a character is just a set of text separated by quotes. So some characters. And then, you can do some more characters or just symbols, anything you can type on a keyboard. So this is a character vector, right? It has 2 elements. Let's confirm that with the length function. Cool, 2 elements. And let's go ahead and check the type of our character vector. Rate character. And like I said before, if we check out the class of our character vector, it is also character. So for integer, logical, and character, type of and class give the same result, but for double, you get 2 different results for type of and class. Don't stress about this too much. Just remember, between type of and class, you can learn all you want to know about your given object. So the last thing I want to cover is names, and let's make a named vector. We'll call it named vector. And so essentially, we're going to make a vector of integers with 2 elements. The elements will be 5 and 7, but I want to give names to these elements. So what we're going to do is we're going to call the first name, give the value 5, and the second name will be called ABC123, and that'll be 7. Let's go ahead and execute that. And let's go ahead and look at our named vector. Cool. So you'll notice that it's displayed a bit differently compared to like a vector which is 5 and 7, right? Because it has names. So these two vectors are equal in their elements, but the top one has names. And so you see the name of the first element is 5, or the first element is 5 with the name, first name, and the second element is 7 with the name ABC123. Pretty cool. And let's go ahead and check out the names of, for example, our integer vector. Oh, wait, and just real quick, let's look at our integer vector so you don't forget what it is, right? It's 1 to 23. So what would the names of this be? Null, because we have not assigned any names. So let's go ahead and check out the names of our named vector. And as expected, it spits back the names. And so one thing you might want to do is, if those names were really important to you, you could say, hey, names of vector. You could do something like this, right? You grab the names of your name vector and then store that in a new variable called names of vector. And now we can go ahead and look at names of vector, and you'll see it has the names. Pretty cool. Yeah, so names are very important, and more important are good names. And this will come up later in other data structures like lists and data frames. And yeah, super important stuff and super cool. And I think this is everything I wanted to cover in the second episode. So thank you so much for watching. This has been R with Oliver episode 2, and I will see you in the next one.